Scott Lauber from the Philadelphia Inquirer will join us as the Phillies, who have not played in over a week, they will be given the duty to face Garrett Cole tonight. Let's get more on this Phillies team and what they've been doing throughout all this. We've been getting all the emails and the updates. No positive tests for the Phils, so that's good. And we know it's been a wild time for baseball, specifically the Phillies and the Marlins and now the Cardinals. But Scott will give us some more insight on everything that's happening with this team. As Scott, we think the Phillies are good to go tonight, correct?
Weather permitting, they are, and I think they're going to be okay weather-wise tonight. I think tomorrow is going to be dicey, but after 7 days off, they're thrown back into the fire tonight against the Yankees, who never lose, and Garrett Cole. So good luck.
Right, exactly. Good luck. So what have the Phillies been doing throughout this? Because the ballpark has actually, been closed. They haven't been able to work. I mean, have they been able to work out somewhere, or is this a team that hasn't played for a week? And here's Garrett Cole. Good luck.
So Citizens Bank Park was closed to them for 4 days last week, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. They did participate in a limited workout Wednesday, but obviously then after the 2 positive tests, which then turned out to be false positives, they closed the ballpark Thursday, Friday. They had workouts Saturday and yesterday, staggered small group workouts, but that's really been the extent of their ability to do any kind of organized team activity workout sort of thing. I've heard some stories about guys, doing some work on their own. Jake Arrieta, for example, shared yesterday that he was using a public field not far from his house to do some throwing with Tommy Hunter. So most of the time, though, guys have been on their own trying to figure out how to keep their bodies working so that when they get back to play, that they're ready to go. I don't really know, though, that there's any simulating any of what they're going to face in a game tonight. And, they don't go 7 days during the season without playing. I mean, the closest thing you get is the 4 days off of the All-Star break. So it's kind of like having 2 All-Star breaks back to back. And it'll be interesting to see their timing and for pitchers, their control and how that all looks going into this week.
Why do you think that they went with Arrieta over starting over with, say, Nola? I know before the Toronto series was postponed, it was mentioned that they were going to start with Nola and Arrieta again, and then the postponement happened once more. So could it be so Nola's not going up against someone like Garrett Cole?
I think that's part of it, sure. I think they'd rather not have Nola face Cole. You'd rather not, if you could help it, have your best pitcher face theirs, maybe give yourself a little bit of an edge tomorrow. But I also think that there was just this desire to get Arrieta out there. His last game action of any kind was an intra-squad scrimmage on July 22nd. So that's 9, 10, that's like 11 days ago now. I know Nola hasn't pitched since July 24th, and he'll pitch tomorrow. But I think they wanted to get Arrieta a start under his belt. They really didn't want him to go any longer. And, you get the added benefit of not having to match Cole against Nola against Cole.
Scott Lauber's with us. Phillies back in action tonight. We only saw 3 games, but any surprises, anything in the way that Girardi did things that kind of stuck out to you when they got off the ground? Because obviously did not look good. They lost 2 out of 3 to a Marlins team that, is not highly regarded entering this year.
My takeaway, and it might have been really my only takeaway from the 3 games, is that the bullpen is every bit as concerning as we thought it would be. And we heard, I wrote a story a couple of days before the season started with Brian Price talking about the Phillies needing a wild card or 2 to come out of their bullpen, or needing to sort of catch light in a bottle. And those are not typically expressions that a pitching coach would use a couple of days from the start of the season if he's confident in his pitching staff, specifically in this case his bullpen. So I believe that they're going to be a good team when they're able to be front runners. When they can get a lead early in a game, I think they're going to be okay. I think it's going to be hard for them to come from behind. I think it's going to be hard for them to to kind of come back from early deficits if they can't get the relievers they want in these games. And, I think Hector Neris pitched once in the Marlins series, and it was a non-save situation. Morgan and Alvarez did not pitch at all. Tommy Hunter pitched one time. Those are the four relievers who have track records that you know about, that you can count on. So if they can get to those guys in these games and get to them with leads, they ought to be all right. But, when you're rolling out mostly inexperienced relievers early in the season in close games, it's not the greatest situation. And we got a lot of Reggie McClain and Ramon Rosso and guys like that in the first series of the season. And I think those are, I think that's probably, that's what Brian Price is saying when he's saying, I need some of those guys to step forward. And they just don't know if any of them will.
All right. So they haven't played in a while. They're supposed to play today, obviously weather permitting, but that's another problem. What if there is weather? 57 games in 56 days. This is something that you wrote about. Girardi talked about it. Hey, can we just get through Monday? But is it realistic to think that they're going to be able to get in 57 games in 56 days?
No, it's not. I mean, it's not. Normally during the season, you'd have nothing like a stretch like that. You're hard pressed to play 25 straight days without an off day. So I don't think it's possible. And I don't think it's going to happen. I think, it's notable that I think MLB has already said that those Marlins games that were missed last week will be made up. They haven't said that yet about the 3 Blue Jays games, about even saying that they'll be made up, no less pinpointing a date. So, they could stack the schedule with doubleheaders and play 7-inning doubleheaders, which, by the way, would be good for the Phillies bullpen. Fewer innings, the better to have to cover for those guys. But, I think it's probably asking a little much. And I think that's why you're hearing Girardi saying things like, let's not make it like it's necessary for everybody to play the full 60 games. At the end of the season, let's just rank them by winning percentage. And, assuming that, you don't have one team that's played 35 games and another that's played 60, assuming they're all somewhere in the 50 to 60 game range, rank them that way, put them in the playoffs. It happened in 81. It happened in 72, both because of work stoppages. So, and it would be crazy to think that you're not going to have more teams that don't run into this kind of thing that the Phillies ran into last week, where they have to miss games. So, I think that's Girardi already saying, look, let's not kid ourselves, and let's not try to cram crazy amount of games into a short period of time. Let's just do the best we can, and at the end of the season, rank them by winning percentage.
I know it seems like forever ago, but someone who did stand out to me during those games against Miami was Didi Gregorius. And could you see a scenario where he actually stays here? I just wonder if the thought of Stott eventually down the road plays a role in that decision.
I could see a scenario where he would stay here. Clearly he's going to go out on the open market in the off season and look for a multi-year deal. It was the whole idea for him was to sign a 1-year deal, have a good year, and then parlay that into more security than he had this time around. So he's going to have a limited season in order to do that. But if he has a good year, he plays a position, and he's still, in his early 30s, relatively young enough to get, a 2 or 3 year deal. Bryson Stott's more than 1 or 2 years away. He's more than 1 year away for sure. He's probably more than 2 years away. So I guess if it lines up, I could see it possibly happening. They could also, slide Gene Segura back to shortstop, and Alec Boehm presumably is going to be ready to play third base at some point, either this year or next. So they have some options there, but Didi did have a very, very good first weekend with a couple of home runs, and, it looked like every time he hit the ball, he hit it hard. So it's a big year for him. It's a big 2 months for him because, he's certainly playing for a multi-year contract next year.
Hey, Scott, if baseball has more coronavirus issues, they didn't want to do a bubble, but would a bubble still be in play down the road, potentially?
It's a good question. I don't think so, only because where would you have it? Where would you put it?
How about Canada? They seem to be doing all right.
Well, they don't want the Blue Jays. Do you think they want a bubble? So like, I mean, that's the issue is that players, yes, we made a lot of it at the time that players kind of balked at the idea of going into a bubble for 3 months and being away from their families. But that was only one piece of it. I mean, there were logistical issues that baseball had. For one thing, baseball requires facilities to play in, and there are only a few places where you could go that would have enough facilities to house all these teams. Arizona would be one, Florida would be another, Texas might be another, and these are states that have been overwhelmed in the past 6 weeks with the coronavirus. It looks much different there now than it did in May,
right,
when they were first kicking around these ideas. And the other thing, too, that, I hear a lot of, baseball should have just done a bubble. Look at the NBA, look at the NHL. Nobody mentions that, the NBA and the NHL did not bring every single team into the bubble, and they're going to be eliminating teams very quickly once this playoffs get going and whatnot. Baseball was going to have 30 teams in a bubble for 3 months, including training camp, which is a lot of time, and there are a lot of people, a lot more people, let's say, than in the NBA. So there were logistical to the bubble, too. I didn't think it was necessarily the most feasible idea before the season started, and now I just wonder, I guess you could just round up everybody and go somewhere, but where would you go?
I want to get your take. They haven't played. What does that do to the timetables for Alec Boehm and Spencer Howard? Anything?
I don't think so. Now we're past the window of time where they could get called up and the Phillies would retain all the service time. So we're out of that window. That should no longer be a concern. And you could make the claim that because they've been at Lehigh Valley and they've been able to have organized team activities and simulated games and stuff, that the guys that are there are maybe in better game shape than the guys that weren't allowed to do anything last week. So it still wouldn't surprise me to see both of those guys relatively soon, especially Howard, possibly this week, possibly early next week. In Howard's case, the Phillies might get into doubleheader situations even as soon as this week. Like, let's say it rains out tomorrow in New York. They have to play a doubleheader Wednesday against the Yankees. They're going to have a game Thursday against the Yankees, and then the Braves come to town. You're going to need a pitcher somewhere along the line. So I would not be surprised if we saw Howard sooner than later.
All right, Phillies back tonight. Arrieta getting his first start of the 2020 season. Garrett Cole will go for the Yankees. And, of course, Scott Lauber has been our guest here from the Philadelphia Inquirer, and he, like all guests, appeared via the Boardwalk Honda hotline. All right, Scott, appreciate the time as always, pal.
Thanks, guys, for having me. Talk to you soon.